Hello and welcome to Season 21 of the American Battle League South Division. We're here with the post-draft team breakdown. I'm Jeremy Lysak, and I'm really excited to hop into this. So, just to be aware, this might sound a little bit choppy. I'm just gonna record it in chunks as I have time to, just so that way I can get this out. So, if audio quality changes throughout, I apologize for that, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, we're just gonna hop into the teams, right? So we're gonna hop into these teams, right? Starting off here with Connor's team. Connor's team, I'm real split on. So first of all, let's look at the weaknesses. He's got no ghost resist. His only rock resist is Jirachi. He's only got defoggers. He's got a lot of hazard setters, but he's only got defoggers and Galarian Wheezing and Talonflame. Now, this actually brings up kind of an issue I have with his team. Let's hop over to the draft board and take a look at it here. So you can see that he went big money early on, okay, and then he got to Wheezing. So here's this team makeup. I think is going to be difficult for him to take advantage of. I think Baxcalibur is pretty good. He's going to find setup opportunities. Jirachi's super annoying to deal with, a great support mon to have around. Volcanion is actually pretty good. Gliscor, also very good, hard to kill. The combination of these two, I think, is also pretty good because Volcanion's weak to rock, ground, electric, and Gliscor, neutral to rock, but immune to ground and electric. Gliscor weak to ice and water. Volcanion 4x resist and is immune to. I like that combination there a lot. Thundurus also gives an electric immunity to cover up the Volcanion. Baxcalibur, weak to what? Fighting, dragon, fairy, rock, steel. Jirachi actually covers all of those. So, and then this Jirachi's weak to Ghost and Dark. Dark at least covered by Wheezing. We already talked about the ground and everything. I think he's got a lot of the coverage here. But the thing is, it's really only in these 6 Pokemon. I think he is going to be so pressured to bring those 6 Pokemon almost every week, which is fine. I think that Talonflame can be a bit player on certain weeks. Maybe you bring Spidops just because you think Sticky Webs is the way to go. I don't see Hatterene, Inferno, Grotle, Dusclops coming at all, if ever. Like, hardly at all, if ever. Like, and that brings up a second problem, that your Terra budget, you can't put a Terra on Wheezing. You're definitely putting one on Talonflame. And that means you're doing your other 2 Terra Pokemon are a combination of these. There's so little Terra prep that you have to do against this team because every time you bring Dusclops or every time you bring Monferno, that means you can't bring one of these 6 Pokemon up here. It's such a problem. I think that his team is going to be so easy to plan for because you're just not planning for these 5 Pokemon. You're only planning for 7 Pokemon. I think he would have been much better off like getting a 4-pointer than 2 of these 2-pointers. It's crazy. Okay, but let's zero in and focus on the positives here. He's got decent attacking power. Actually, he doesn't though. Like he's got Baxcalibur. The only other thing that's going to be using physical attacks regularly is Gliscor at 95. That's going to be and then Jirachi, yeah, it sure will, but also it can't really set up and break stuff. Gliscor can at least set up. On the special attacking side, Thundurus, great. Jirachi, probably not using it too much. Volcanion, very good. This team's going to struggle. No question about it in my mind. This team lives and dies on whether or not Baxcalibur can break through people's teams. If Baxcalibur goes out or someone can neutralize... If you can neutralize Baxcalibur and Thundurus, this team falls apart. He doesn't have great walls, and he has limited offensive options. This team's going to struggle. Mark my words. Okay, so pretty harsh indictment of Connor's team. But I'm just trying to be honest here. This is how I feel. You guys don't want me to sugarcoat. Don't worry, he's pretty covered against bug types. Look at all those resists. Okay, let's hop into the next one. We've got Zhang and the Minnesota Typhlosion. Zhang asked me before he drafted, he's like, hey, what do you think? I'm thinking about going either electric terrain or a psychic terrain. And I said psychic terrain because I think it's easier to build around, because it's, well, for two reasons. One, I think the benefit it adds in terms of giving you immunity priority, much better. The downside it has, actually no, there is no downside, but the benefit of electric terrain is things can't go to sleep, which is hard to use effectively. Plus the setter is better. He went with Indeedee female over Indeedee male. I don't remember what the point difference is on those. Let's head over to the draft board and take a look, because I think we probably made Indeedee male considerably more expensive. Indeedee, wow, actually cheap. It's already cheaper than I thought it was, because there's Indeedee male, 11 points, and what did it end? What does Indeedee female end up selling for? Okay, yeah, I think I probably would have tried to make up the 3 points somewhere else and get Indeedee male, but I'm not really going to dwell on that, because Indeedee female still does what it needs to do. It's going to give unburdened support for Sceptile. It's going to give a expanding force to Iron Crown. You have unburdened support on Driftblim. I think that this team is going to do pretty well. Rillaboom thankfully isn't hindered because it's set of its own grassy terrain. Also, unburdened support on the Pokemon that I mentioned still works. Comfey does have to worry about not getting like triage negated because of and same thing with Raging Bolt. He's got some decent priority on his team. Oh, actually, Raging Bolt's priority isn't listed on this list here, but that makes sense because it's the only Pokemon in the game that gets it. He's got to make sure he doesn't overwrite his own priority with his, like, he's got good priority mons in Comfey and Raging Bolt, but if Psychic Terrain's up, that's a problem. Exploitable weaknesses on the team, we're looking at these red columns. Ice is a problem. There's a couple of decent ice Pokemon around, and sure, that does invite in Iron Crown pretty well, but look at all these bug weaknesses he's got here. The exact opposite problem of the last team. He's got the one Ghost immunity, but 2 weaknesses and no other resists. That might end up being a problem. Dark, same thing. Yeah, he's got Comfey as the only fairy on his team. Dark type's going to come in a lot on Indeedee, and if they go into Comfey as the counter to that, he can't Draining Kiss them. So he's then got to rely on Great Tusk, which can get worn down a little bit more. I don't know, that might be interesting to see how he ends up dealing with that. And then also he doesn't have great fairy resist. The only fairy resist is Iron Crown. Fairy being one of the best Terra types, I think is, like, it's going to get used against him. Like, if a Pokemon can beat Iron Crown and then also turn Fairy, that's going to be a struggle for him. Let's take a look at, in terms of Terra-able Pokemon, Indeedee female being able to Terra is actually really good for him, I think. Sceptile, curious if he's going to be able to use that. Thank God Comfey can't Terra. That would be insane. Volbeat's an interesting case. So Volbeat being able to Baton Pass Tail Glows, also Volbeat's something that I think some of its priority moves, its targeting priority moves, can get shut down by Psychic Terrain, but Tail Glow Baton Pass would bypass that. So being able to pass a Tail Glow to something like a Raging Bolt could be pretty scary. Same thing, passing it to an Iron Crown, especially if he passes it to an Iron Crown that has a booster energy, so it gets the speed boost. Very scary, especially if Psychic Terrain is up, because then you can't kill it with priority. He does have the tools here. I feel like his team might be a little bit gimmicky. I just don't know if it's got the stuff to be able to, like, if you need to really sit down and just put together, like, a solid team, I think it's a little tougher, because you don't really have good walls here. Like, Great Tusk is like a really good defensive Pokemon, but it's not a wall, you know what I mean? Comfey can be kind of a wall. Garganical can be kind of a wall. Rillaboom, you could build it that way. But I do think with how offensive this league has been in the past few seasons, he may struggle a little bit. But his Terramons, I think Drifloon's is not bad as a Terramon. Sceptile is usable for sure as a Terramon. I could see Indeedee maybe doing something. Volbeat shouldn't be a Terramon. But also, just based on this, he does have Terra Malamar, so he could go Terra Stellar. We could see if that actually ends up working out. But the problem is, it's like if he goes Terra Indeedee or Terra Malamar, then he can go Terra Drifblim or Sceptile, but then he's out of Terra budget. He can't even put one on Volbeat. So he's just going to have pairs of Terramons that he can really go with. That might be a little bit of a struggle in terms of money-wise, how that's going to work out. Okay, we'll move on to the Oakland Gliders next. So, man, Tyler went for hammers. I think ever since I just kind of started talking about, like, just get a bag of hammers. If you see if you see Pokemon as a problem that is solved by reducing the opponent down to 0 hit points, if that is the way that you see problems solved in Pokemon, then yeah, go out and get stuff with over 110 attack. Like, just start with that. And then work backwards from there. If that's the way you see your problems, then that's how you're going to try to solve them. Just at least have the right tools, right? So, Meowscarada, it doesn't have a huge attack stat, but it's good enough that, and plus Flower Trick always crits. Knockoff is a really strong move with a great secondary effect. Triple Axle can become Stab if you use it on the first time. Like, Meowscarada, all of its hits hurt. Now, let's take a look at right here. We got Meowscarada, gonna be U-turning. Raikou, gonna be Volt Switching. Swampert, gonna be Flip Turning. Baton Pass, probably not gonna come too much into play. U-turn coming out of the Bombardier. He does have Spike and Toxic Spike potential in Meowscarada. I don't know if that fits Tyler's playstyle, that we're gonna see that too much. This is gonna be fast-paced attacking, right? You just want to get in your threats against, you want to get good matchups, and you want to hit hard. He doesn't have any hazard clearing. 0 hazard clearing of any kind. If someone can stack up hazards versus him, he has to run heavy duty boots all the time, or he has to, he can keep up the hazards because he's got Golden Go, right? But he actually doesn't want to block Defog because that'll clear the hazards that are set up against him as well. His best form of hazard clearing is not blocking hazard clearing with Golden Go. I think he'll probably get some wins with this team. Salamence can really put pressure on people, so can Meowscarada. Raikou, we've seen what it can do. Medichamp's a great breaker. Swampert is very reliable at what it does. I think he has enough of a core of defensive Pokemon here that he's got the bulk to be able to deal with some other teams. I think he'll get 2 or 3 wins with this team. But savvy teams are going to absolutely exploit the fact that he doesn't have hazard clearing. Now, I'm going to open up on the side. He did send me some changes he wants to make that I'm not really going to talk about here yet. How'd that happen? I'll address that later. Where are they? Jeez, I know he sent me the changes he wanted to make. Does he address the... He does not address the hazard clearing issues. So, we'll see how it goes. But I think that's going to be the biggest issue with him. In terms of exploitable weaknesses, I mean, this is the big one. No hazard clearing is huge. Where's his red marks? Water. I don't think that's too bad of a problem for him. Ice, he's yes and no. Ground, I think that's a bigger issue. That's very spammable. Sure, it gives like Bombardier, Salamence, and Meowscarada opportunities to come in, but I do think that those Pokemon are going to Those are obvious switches, right? And if you can get the coverage, I know it's kind of a lot to ask to be like, oh, if you have ice coverage along with this, then they're all weak to ice, so you can kind of predict that and switch. Does anybody in this league have Mammo Swine? I'm just gonna do a quick Control F here for Mammo. No, nobody took it, so that's good for him. That's good news. Yeah, I don't know. That's my take on Tyler's team. Speed tiers, pretty solid. I guess I didn't think about speed tiers for everybody else. Wow, actually super high and then big drop off to guard. That's interesting. Looking good. Yeah, and speed tiers, everyone's been doing pretty good on them so far, so that's interesting. I think that wraps up what my thoughts are on Oakland. Yeah, I guess we'll move on to the Michigan Mudsdales. Let's see, Michigan Mudsdales. So a lot of grass types, right? We see Munchlax here. Munchlax, very popular pick for people. Let's look at his. So he's got a big gap here from 110 to 86. That is prime for getting taken advantage of. Like anything in like the 105 range is going to be able to run Modest and stay ahead of Rotom. Even stuff that that's just a big gap. Even stuff at 100 might be able to take some off unless he's running max Rotom. As I'm looking at this though, I feel like he had a lot of big threats that kind of fell under the radar for me. Like Torrentie's it has access to Nasty Plot now. It's something I keep kind of ignoring. But it has access to Nasty Plot and can really put in the work. Great speed tier and plus regenerator, so it's got multiple options to set it up. Interestingly, he also doesn't have hazard clearing. I guess Whimsicott and Torrentie both don't have defog anymore, nor does Rotom Mo. And he has not the best, he's got setters that'll get him up, right? But he's gonna be able to get stacked against. Something he's gonna have to address. That's not Mitch's Discord? Is that new? There's something going on with my Discord right now where it's not showing everybody's full names. But we're not gonna worry about it. Pretty weird though. Okay, back to this. Yeah, but Heatran, big threat. Ursalune, Blood Moon, big threat. I'm a big fan of Goodra. Ogerpon, Wellspring, I think is kind of underrated. In terms of these red blocks here, yeah, Ice not so great against. That's I guess what you get when you have 3 grass types. And same thing with flying. He's got a lot of flying weaknesses, and the only resist he has is Heatran. Flying moves aren't particularly spammable, I don't feel, so maybe that'll be fine, but it's definitely something he's going to have to work out. The bigger problem is, again, no hazard clearing. It does have a little bit of priority just from he could vacuum away from Ursaluna. I've seen it work for people on the ladder. Don't know if it'll work here, but I actually kind of like some of his low tier picks. Rabsca feels like a little like Behem on paper, and I like Behem. Unfortunately has that bug typing, but that doesn't mean it gets bug stab, which Behem doesn't get anymore. Well, not stab, but it used to get signal beam. Now doesn't have that anymore. Bug buzz is a little bit better, obviously. Clefairy is a very popular low tier pick, and for good reason. Clodsire, I think, is a great addition to this team. I like what it gives him. We'll see where he goes with it, but I big time worry about his 3 grass types, his ice weaknesses. Flying weakness I don't worry about as much, but again, just can't clear hazards, save his life. Let's take a look at how this is set up for if he wants to Terra stuff. Clodsire's a good Terramon. I think Rotomo's a good Terramon. Goodra I think is also good. He's got 4 good Terramons, and then he's got some points left. Well, here's the issue though. If he goes Clodsire, he's got to go 2 of these guys. If he goes Rotomo, he's got to go 2 of these guys. If he goes Whimsicott, he's got to go 2 of these guys. He can only do 1 of these at a time. I think that is probably an oversight. I do like the team he put together, but he's only going to really have 1 realistic Terra option every week that people are going to plan for. That is a shortcoming of this team, especially when you're not able to clear hazards for some reason, and for some reason Torn doesn't get it anymore. That was the big appeal of it. Also, it doesn't have great physical attackers. Like, obviously Ogerpon's very good, but after that it's like Gudra as his next best physical attacker. That's going to be a problem. That's something that people are going to be able to really easily plan for. Moving on to the Chicago Cubs. Chicago Cubs dropped down last season. Let's dive into this team and see what we think of it. So fighting stands out here. He's got the Hoopa, that's great. Zapdos and Rabambi. That, you know what? You have a Zapdos on your team, fighting types you're not really scared of, right? They're not gonna want to click fighting moves because they don't want to get Static Parrot. And Arboliva's resist, Rabambi's a resist, it's immunity there. Same thing with ground types. Like, he's got a decent amount of weaknesses, but he's got such good switch-ins. It's not too concerning. Rock type, everyone's got rock type weaknesses. It's one of the best offensive types in the game, and this is why. A lot of types are weak to it. Crocolore being weak to rocks doesn't really matter. Same thing with Rabambi, because Rabambi is usually going to be heavy-duty boots, or it's going to be a suicide lead, right? So who cares if it's weak to rocks? Crocolore is probably going to be changing type, so don't worry about it. Gouging Fire, gonna be heavy-duty boots. Zapdos, gonna be heavy-duty boots. So that rock type, I'm just gonna throw away. Well, in terms of, I guess, rock weaknesses, but also there's not a lot of offensive rock Pokemon, right? Let's look back here. No offensive rock Pokemon here. I know Oakland obviously has one in Lycanroc. Honestly, probably a good call for this meta. Garganacl is not an offensive rock Pokemon. Could be a little bit annoying. No offensive rock Pokemon here. Back to Chicago. But I do like the core of, like, Iron Treads, Zapdos, Gouging Fire. I think those are going to work well together, along with Melodic. Going to be pretty solid. Honestly, I could see all of these Pokemon coming to a game. I don't think there's any issue there. In terms of speed tiers, big drop from 70 to 49, but also these Pokemon you're never running speed on anyways, so not super exploitable. He's got little 10-point chunks, all like pretty much going all the way up. So did a good job with the speed tiers. Physical offense. Iron Treads I don't think is a great physically offensive Pokemon. I do think that's probably not great for him. Gouging Fire is obviously fantastic. With Taurus Aqua, I'm interested to see how it goes. Haven't seen a lot out of the Paldean Tauroses, but I mean, the potential's there for sure. Hoopa, fantastic special attacker. Within a meta game where Pursuit doesn't exist, that's also a big benefit. Zapdos, I think you're I know that you can run specially offensive. It has the tools to do so. Like, if you just like, oh yeah, a decently fast electric type with 125 base special attack. You want it to be taking hits. So you want to. I don't think that you can rely on it for a good special attacker. Alolan Persian, not a good special attacker, but I like it as a pivot because of Fur Coat and Parting Shot and stuff. So I think that's decent. How we doing on Terras? Let's take a look. You know, he's got a good spread of stuff. Like, he can go Taurus Aqua plus Crocolore. He can go these three here. That wouldn't be bad. He could even go like these three here. The Alolan Golem, Alolan Persian, Arboliva. Like, he's got some combos he can do. I mean, Crocolore will probably have it most of the time, and then he might throw it on to Tauros Alola, which means he doesn't have any points left, but if he wants to throw it onto Arboliva, he still has points where he can throw it on Alolan Golem. Like, I think that is probably a pretty common Terra combo for him, because those, I think, are all good Terra Pokemon. I really like Alolan Golem on paper just because of its trapping capability, and the fact that it'll be able to change type is also a huge benefit. If he wants to find an opportunity, where's a Steel type? Yeah, like, Alolan Golem, famously a good trapper for Heatran. Even better now that it's going to be able to change its type. So it used to have to run Choice Scarfs, that way Heatran kills something, you bring in Alolan Golem, and you go Choice Scarf, Earthquake, KO Heatran. You don't have to worry about that as much now. You don't have to run Choice Scarf because you can afford to underspeed it, and you'll be able to Terra into something that can live a an earth power. You could turn into a water type, and you could go ahead and go for earthquake. I mean, you're still gonna go for earthquake to kill a Heatran, but anyways, I like Alolan Golem, and I only targeted that specifically because it's the first steel type I came across that it could trap. Anything else I want to talk about here? I mean, another one you can trap over here is Bisharp. Like, go fighting type, you'll be able to take the steel and fighting attacks pretty well, go for Terra Fighting, get it out of there. Or if it even has Body Press, probably not bad. I like that a lot. Yeah, I like this team. This looks really good. This is probably the team I like the most so far out of the South as we've been reviewing it here. Yeah, I like that. Next, we're going to move on to the South Side Squirtles. Rebranded Washington Commanders after they dropped down. So, Southside, they took their boy Bellybolt again. They got the combination of Slowking and Beartick that we also see up in the north. A big Serena guy. Another season with Bisharp again. Lando T, I like. Sneasler, Hisuian Zoroark, I dig that. Sneasler, no terrain setter along with Sneasler. Kind of interesting, as we saw that's a pretty common combination, especially last season. Pheasantipity, everyone's favorite Pokemon that can't Terra. Man, that Pokemon's still an absolute mystery to me. I don't know what it's supposed to do. Carbank's a whiteboard Pokemon. Like, in a controlled environment where it doesn't actually have to do anything, I really like it. I like the idea, like, Body Press on it is pretty good because it's got such a decent, like, defense stat. You know, it's got screens, it's got hazards. I really like a lot of the boxes it ticks, but I don't think it does a lot in actual practice. Colossal, another Pokemon that on paper should be super good. Let's look at Slowking and Landorus T. I love this combination, actually. Like Landorus T, the two weaknesses it has are covered by Slowking really well. It doesn't obviously cover Slowking's weaknesses as well, but the fact that it can pivot and it's got Intimidate, so it can take physical hits that might come at Slowking really well. Like, it obviously covers the electric. I like this combination here. And obviously I like Slowking being able to Chilly Reception into Beartick. Beartick's probably going to have a Terra designation on it most weeks, solely because people have to plan for it. It's definitely something I had to do versus Brett, even though I don't think he brought it in either of our battles. It's definitely a big point of planning. Hisuian Zoroark, I don't think there's anything on this team that stands out. It's like, you're not going to trick a lot of people with the moveset, but I don't really think that's what you go for. Like, I think the best way to use Hisuian Zoroark is you bait in fighting types. And I don't think there's anything on this team that screams, hey, I need to bring a fighting type, with the exception of Bisharp. And I don't even know, so you could do that here. And then you can also do the same thing with ghost types, but he doesn't have any ghost weaknesses on his team outside of Slowking. And I just don't see you going like Slowking into Hisuian Zoroark. Like, I think it's a little bit, I don't think he has the perfect team to really try to trick people with Hisuian Zoroark, but we saw how well it did last season. I think he can probably replicate that. Let's look at the red boxes. This doesn't concern me too much. He's got a lot of ground weaknesses, so people are gonna bring ground types, but most of those are on Terra Pokemon, and then he's got like good immunities and resists. It's not too big of a concern. Then the rock type we talked about, not a ton of scary rock type Pokemon in the league, and Sneasler is going to be faster than pretty much anything we see, and it's going to be able to come in on those rock moves. I think Sneasler's always something you got to watch out for big time. I do kind of like that it doesn't have a lot of obvious team support. Like, when I think both teams that had it last season were running like grassy terrain plus Sneasler, and I think that kind of forces your hand to run that. So I think this sneeze is probably going to be a little bit more open because it's going to be able to run the white herb set or the choice band set. I think it's going to be more freed up, honestly. So I like that for it. He's got some hazard clearing options. He's got some hazard setting options. That's great. He's got a little bit of pivoting. It's great. This checks a lot of the boxes. No wish support anymore. Like wish is hard to come by anyways. But I think this checks a lot of the boxes. I expect to see a pretty good showing out of the Southside Squirrels here. Love this minimalist logo as well. I think that's all I have to say about that. I guess we'll take a look at how he's gonna set up his Terra Pokemon. Obviously, we bumped Beartick up a little bit in terms of its price. Also, that's something to keep in mind. Like, he went 12 Pokemon. He could have combined some of these prices a little bit, got a little bit better Pokemon. He's got a lot of Pokemon. Let's see, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 7 Pokemon that can Terra. I think that's actually really great. And he doesn't lock himself out of too many combinations. Like, he can go Bisharp, Colossal, Carbink if he wanted to. He could go Bisharp and Beartick. He could go Beartick, Altaria, Colossal. He can still afford to do that. He can go Bellybolt, Beartick. Does he have 2 points left over then? I think he does. Yeah, and then even Carbink. Like, Carbink's actually gonna have Terras on it most of the time just because of the way this works out. He's got a lot of flexibility in terms of that. So that's going to be pretty interesting to watch what he does there. Yeah, pretty excited for that. I'm going to reframe this a little bit because it's, oh, not that. Let's do this. Bip, bip, bip. Yeah, we can see everything there. Oh, zoom in. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to move on to Santa Fe Suicune. A lot of Pokemon on this team. Man, do we have some stuff to talk about here at the bottom. But let's hop over to the team page first. Oh, that's... Okay, that's a slight problem with this that I've done. We're just going to have to slide you back over for now. Okay, let's look at our red boxes. Lots of red boxes here. But are they a problem? A little bit. Lots of Fire Weak stuff here. But... you know, Walking Wake's Forks resist, you can have Flash Fire, Arcanine, Glimora. Okay, this is a little bit concerning as I'm looking at it, because Walking Wake, sure, can take fire moves, but you're probably not going to be running heavy-duty boots on that. Hazards are going to chip it down. Glimora is in a really interesting spot on this team because it's your most reliable hazard setter, plus it is your only hazard clearing, plus it is one of your only your few fire resists. Fire is not typically a physical type, so you're not going to find a lot of options to be able to use that that toxic debris. And Arcanine, sure, it can have Flash Fire, but Intimidate's a much more useful ability. So I think it's going to want to do that. So I think you're putting yourself in a tough spot. This column here is something to be concerned about because I think it's exploitable. Poison. You got the immunity and Berserker. Kind of unfortunate. I like Berserker, but it's like a fake steel type. It doesn't do a lot of the stuff you want steel types to do, namely take specially offensive moves. So that might be an issue. Flying, we haven't seen a lot of flying types. He's still got 3 resists, not a big problem. Bug, not a lot of scary bugs around. You have enough resists. Rock, like I said, not a ton of rock types in the league. Really, your biggest thing you're going to have to watch out for is Rock Terras. Ghost, Umbreon is a great resist to it. You're going to see it a lot, but you do have these couple of psychic types and not a lot of other resists. Not too big of an issue. I really think Fire is the scariest one there for him. And the fact that he's only got this one Mortal Spin Pokemon. It's going to be blocked by Steel types, which I think are more common in League than Ghost types. So, I think that's a problem. I think the Hazard War is going to be something that he struggles with this season. But let's look at the team makeup top to bottom here. Walking Wake is great. Arcanine, very good, very solid Pokemon. Cresselia is pretty good. Glimora, I like. Torterra, great setup opportunities. I really like how he used Glass Share last season. I think I was really impressed with that. Enamorus, I'm so torn on. Like, he's got kind of sneaky Trick Room in here with like Press and Calyrex as setters. Do we have Trick Room? If there was good space for it down here, I feel like I'd like to see Trick Room on this list, maybe over Taunt or something. Brett, if that's easy to do, would you mind doing that? If it's hard to do, just pretend you didn't listen to this part of the podcast. Like, Abomasnow can obviously set up screens, but you don't have a ton of, like, Pokemon that really love to set up. Like, I think that your biggest user of that is maybe, like, a Weakness Policy, Agility, Enamorus behind screens could be tough. Same thing with Torterra. Speed tier-wise, you're a little slow, but you don't worry, you have Sticky Web and Kricketune. Okay, let's hop into... I'm gonna have to take some swings at this team. Okay, let's run over to draft board. Here's the thing, Calyrex. Calyrex is such a bad Pokemon. There's no reason to have it on your team. It'd behoove you significantly more to just take that 1 point and spend it on something else, like upgrade Luxray a little bit. Let's see what's a 5-point electric Pokemon that's available. And I'm not doing this to like really, I'm not trying to dig into Mike, but just this is my view on some of these things. Oricorio electric. You got a couple of Rotoms here, a Raichu. Granted, they're not physical electric types. I don't care. Electric's a bad physical type. Other Sticky Webbers even around to take Kricketune spot. Masquerain's there. Actually, let's see what's in 2 points. There's Sticky Webber in 2 points that I would have think he'd be better off taking. Maybe not. Yeah, no Sticky Webbers there. So at least that's not a easy thing for me to point to. So you got that going for you, which is nice. But yeah, like Furret would have been a better thing to have on this team because it gives you tidy up support. Plus like a normal type to be able to soak up ghost type moves. Yeah, I really sound like I'm being mean to this team because let's look at the positives. Umbreon can Terra. That's a great Terra Pokemon to have, I think, because it's so bulky. You can really customize it to check the things you want to check. Like I said, I love how he used Glacier last season. I think he was really great. What else? Oh, actually, no, Umbreon can't Terra, excuse me, because it's 10 points. It's got to be below 10 points. So, Glacier, we're probably going to see Terra a lot. Can't combine it with Abomasnow, unfortunately, so you're probably going with Berserker or Luxray as your other Terra Pokemon. Can you do both? You can do both. That's probably what you're doing, because if you put it on Calyrex or Kricketune, enormous waste, right? Because Kricketune is just going to... Like, you could... The only reason you put it on a Kricketune is because you want to lead Kricketune, you're afraid they're going to go with the spinner, so you want to go like Focus Sash, Terra Ghost, as you get up Sticky Webs, that way they can't rapid spin away, right? Good news is, nobody in this league fucking has rapid spin, bar a few teams. This isn't really a big hazard stacking team, you can definitely get them up here and there, but overall this team's going to have to... And this team doesn't have a lot of like big scary offense either. It's an odd construction, for sure. I think Michael is going to struggle to have the success he did last season with this team makeup. But also there's a lot of teams that I think are exploitable down here. So, who's to say? Kind of hard to judge. And plus, he really surprised me last season. I wasn't expecting much out of him, and he really surprised me. So I'm totally prepared to eat my words as the season goes on. So, down to 2 teams left. Let's get to them. So the Detroit Dragapults. Man, we've seen a lot of Dragapult Rotom Wash from Darren in the past. At least I feel like we have. He's got a couple of surprises here. See Cottony. Honestly, that's a 1-point Pokemon I really like. Paldean Tauros is very interesting. Now, I am of the belief that there's an absolute spoil of good fighting types in mid to low tiers. I do want to dive into this pick just a little bit because I really like a lot of the lower tier fighting types. So 5-point fighting types. I really like Girder, so I think I would have preferred to see you take that. I guess that's the only other one that's sharing this spot. How about a tier down below that? Combuskin, maybe there's some shenanigans there, but I think I probably like your Paldean Tauros pick better. Yeah, okay. You know, there's a couple of things in the ballpark that I think, and actually, Toxicroak, Hisuian Sneasler, or Hisuian Sneasel, excuse me. Those ones I think would have been interesting to take, but I think overall, you know what? I'm not gonna bash the Paldean Tauros pick too much, honestly. So I just wanted to dive in a little bit to that, see what I thought of it. So let's hop back over here, check these red boxes out. Steel, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like Rotom Wash is going to be coming to 95% of the battle. Same thing with Skarmory. Honestly, good combination there too. Weak to electric and water. Rotom at least is neutral and resists the other one. I like that combo. That's good for you. Rock type, we've talked rock type to death here. Ice, there's a lot of ice problems here, but also not a lot of offensive ice Pokemon, so that's good. Got a little bit of the same issue with fire going on, but he's got Rotom Wash, which is super reliable with that. Soon Arcanine, which if it's not gonna have Flash Fire, but if it did, but even when it doesn't, it 4x resists it. Dragapult can take fire type hits, no problem. So it's weak. The weaknesses here, I'm not too concerned about. Oh boy, we come again to the land of people not having hazard clearing. Everyone wants to stack hazards, but everyone just wants to rely on boots. Buy stock in Timberland. So you gotta have the heavy duty boots, okay? Steel toes. Call OSHA. This is a hazard meta, guys. You want to get your hazards up, and you know what? He's got good setters in Skarmory. Tinglu's pretty good too. Toxic Spike's going off Mike. He's got a grounded poison type, which does help a little bit. Honestly, I think Muck's a pretty good Pokemon. 105, 100 for like Spadef soaking stuff, and you don't really want to run stat moves on it a lot. So it's a great Assault Vester, and even if you don't, then you're running like Drain Punch, Poison Jab knockoff, maybe throw Toxic Spikes or Haze on there. I like that a lot. Not a ton of priority, but that's not a big problem. Okay, so I like that. I'm not a big fan of this whole situation down here. Having your only defogger be Lurantis, it's not the worst thing. At least he has a hazard clearer, right? And he's got a lot of things off the ground, so he's not too scared of earthquakes coming out like a lot of teams are. We've seen him. Dragapult's one of the better Pokemon in the league in terms of just general usage stuff. Namorous has got great special attack. Dragapult is deceiving because it's got such good special moves, so I actually think it's better than that 100 indicates. Rotom Wash, you're probably using defensive a lot, although it does have access to Nasty Plot, so who knows. I think his team's a little bit on the more passive side, because Dragapult, again, you can run it physically offensive, but that's a little bit harder to do because you don't have a physical Ghost Stab. Enamorous, if you're running that like contrary superpower set, sure, but that's kind of gimmicky. Paldean Tauros, I'm hoping he proves me wrong and this is an absolute steal at this tier. Very interesting, especially because it can Terra. But I guess the higher ones could Terra too. Soon Arcanine is going to live and die if you can hit head smashes, right? Tinglu isn't going to be a big offensive powerhouse, but he's got so much good defense on this team. I think that's probably going to be working in his benefit if he can get hazards up and just kind of make people cheese grater themselves switching to get opportunities and then clean up with one of his other stuff late game. This team, I think, has potential. If he can keep hazards off of his side of the field. And unfortunately, that means you're going to have to bring Lurantis a lot, or you're going to have to bring, like, these Pokemon are good booters, right? And so is this one, and this is off the ground, and this isn't going to take too much. So I guess it's not bad. He's not in a bad hazard situation, but I've voiced my concerns. I think people are undervaluing hazards a bit. I think if someone leans into that playstyle, I think they're going to be in a good place. Finally, we got the Texarkana Toxic. Oh my god. Papcoon, thank you. Thank you, my son. 4 good hazard clearers. Good rapid spinner, good rapid spinner, good defogger, good defogger. Love that. I'm so happy to see that. Oh, I didn't look at speed tiers for Darren's team. Oh, enormous gap, but that's bound to happen when you have a Dragapult. And then after that, it's not too bad. A little slow outside of Dragapult, but it's not the end of the world, because you do have a Dragapult, which is going to make people chase, which means it opens up Enamorus a little bit, right? So I think that's good. Okay, so we've talked about how happy I am about the hazard situations. Fortress is a godsend for that, because it gets all the hazards. You're realistically never going to be using... Does Cloyster not get Rapid Spin anymore? Kind of interesting. I thought it got Rapid Spin. You got good setters. Okay, I'm happy to start off there. That's great. A lot of good switch initiative. These Pokemon all love to run switch initiative moves, so you're actually got flip turners and U-turners and volt switches. Good volt turn, that's great. A little weak on the priority front, but that's not a huge concern to me. Yeah, okay. So this is off to a great start. I'm excited by that. Roaring Moon, fantastic. Oh, so we were gonna look at speed tiers. Ooh, this gap's an issue. Going from 101 to 75. There's a lot of stuff at 100. There's a lot of stuff in the 90s. Everything in the 90s, if you have a Pokemon that has between 100 and 91, I'd say. I think you can probably go down to 90. Between 100 and 90 speed. Just run Adamant or Modest. If they're offensive, just do that. Because you can afford to. You can't be caught. Because anything that can catch you, they have to run Scarf anyways. They're going to blow past you. But they can't catch Roaring Moon. That is at least one benefit. But like, these guys can't catch Roaring Moon at least. Primarina, Decidueye, they can't catch... Corviknight, you're not running Scarf on, let's be honest. Cloyster, you're not running Scarf, you're going to Shell Smash, you're going to boost up past anyways. So that's an exploitable problem. Papcon, I would take into account the fact that you're going to be facing Modest and Adamant Pokemon in those speed tiers a lot. Watch out for that. Okay. But good pivots, like Glare and Slowking. I actually really love the combination of... Oh, maybe that's on another tier. But Primarina and Fortress combination, I think, is pretty good together. I like that. Primarina is... a good, especially offensive Pokemon, combining that with Sandy Shocks and Glare and Slowking. I think you're not passive by any means. Cyclizar is another one of those whiteboard Pokemon, where I love it on paper, but it's just never really translated for me. Plus he's got 2 Regenerators, he's got a lot of good switch initiative. Oh, he's got 3 Regenerators, excuse me, I forgot about Cloth. Kind of excited to see Cloth. Dugong I'm not excited about. Didn't see enough of it last season to really like have a good take on it. I don't know. Maybe I love Pokemon that can trap. Dugong can do that. So we'll see. Corviknight, one of the best defoggers in the game. Fortress, one of my favorite spinners in the game. Hisuian Decidueye, deceptively good. One of the things I love about Hisuian Decidueye is it is an Edgequake resist. We've seen a lot of these teams that are weak to rocks, they're weak to ground, and Hisuian Decidueye covers both of those very well. So, happy for that. These red blocks, ice, a little bit of an issue, but also he's got more of the ice types in the league than anybody, so it's not a big issue, like really. Fighting, ooh boy, he's got some fighting concerns. Putting a lot of pressure on Primarina and Glare and Slowking. At least they don't share a weakness, so at least he's got that going for him. But he's going to be absolutely hammered with banded close combats on this team, and he's just going to have to find ways to, like, if Primarina comes in, like, he's going to be able to keep hazards away pretty well, so that's good. Primarina's going to come in, he's got to make sure he's not 3-hit KO'd by a fighting move, because Primarina doesn't have great recovery. That means you can bring in Primarina once, and then after that, if it's 3-hit KO'd, Primarina is actually only a check once, right? Because like, come in, you take 40%. Okay, you're not 2-hit KO'd. Great, you've forced this fighting type out. If you can't get recovery on Primarina, then that means next time it comes in, you probably have leftovers on. So now you're at 67% best case scenario. And he goes into, and then your opponent goes into something else. Primarina's got to leave. Next time it comes in, it's going to get 2-hit KO'd by the close combat. That could be a problem. Galarian Slowking mitigates that problem a little bit because it 4x resists fighting, and it's a regenerator, but that does put a lot of pressure on Galarian Slowking. So you gotta make sure you protect that if you're going up against a scary fighting type. And let's take a look. What are the scary fighting types in the league? Ooh, actually, we're not seeing a ton of them. Sneasler. Sneasler's a scary one, especially for that, that's especially a problem. Aquatoros actually is a one he wouldn't mind facing. No fighting types here. Great Tusk. Great Tusk is a problem for that team. And no fighting types there. So, I guess that, lessens the concern a bit if you have fighting weakness, if you're a little bit fighting weak, right? Because there's not a ton of fighting types in the league. Ice, we talked about that. Ground. You know what? I was just praising Hisui Decidueye for being that ground Pokemon. But, we also have the Corviknight, which can come in on a lot of ground types. Corviknight's going to become to most, if not all, the games. But, yeah, you do have a decent amount of ground weaknesses, and people are going to be trying to kill Galarian Slowking with ground moves, so you're going to have to face a lot of ground type stuff, and if you have to keep... So Corviknight and Galarian Slowking are super important to keep protected, but that's not a surprise. I like this team. It's in my top 4 teams that I've reviewed here, so looking forward to seeing what Pap can do. How's he looking with his Terra options? I gotta scroll this back over here. Okay. So Terra options, Cyclozar can Terra, that's good. You can even combine Cyclozar and Hisui Decidueye, great. Same thing with Fortress, Hisui Decidueye. Oyster can't Terra. So you can go Claw, Hisui Decidueye, but then you have to go Dugong. Bad combinations, right? Can you go Cyclozar, Hisui Decidueye, and Dugong? Yeah, so Dugong's just going to be an ever-present Terramon. You're always going to have just because of the way the math works out, you're just always going to have Terra Dugong, right? Because any other combination you have, Dugong fits in. Because you're going to have one of your 2 7s, and then either your 6 or your 4, and then Dugong. Right? Yeah. You can't. Oh, well, can you do 6, 4, 7? No, you can't. So, yeah. Not bad. You haven't locked yourself in. I guess that's really what I'm looking for with these. So I like that. I guess, let's see if I can reframe this, and we're going to hop over. I'm going to look at this schedule. It's a little zoomed out, but that's fine. We've got Papkun taking on Zane in the first week. Those were 2 of the teams that I really liked, so that's exciting to see right out the gate. Mike, what was my issue with your team? No issues with your team. That's good. No big issues, at least none that spring to mind. Versus Zhang, these are probably my 4 favorite teams, right? That I talked about. These ones all have issues. Actually, I liked Darren's too, but Darren's not playing. Yeah, these teams all have issues, so I'm kind of excited to see how they face off against each other. But I'm excited to see going into this. So I'm gonna make a bold prediction for this league. Let's come up with a bold prediction. I predict that. I predict that Gliscor will have the most KOs on Connor's team. That's what I'll go with. I think it's pretty bold. That's a bold prediction. That's bold enough, right? I think I'll probably stop there. Thank you all for listening. If this is kind of, like I said, if it's kind of weird, sorry about that, but it's just the way I had to record it. Looking forward to a really good season. I guess I'm going to talk about this real quick. So you might have noticed due to the differences in length of the season and the fact that finishing the bottom half of the South is not super detrimental, I've decided to make the South only 4 teams get in. That is less, so it's very exclusive to have a shot at advancing. So you can't just kind of float in. If you want to make it back up to the North, you're gonna have to fight. But your season is already 2 weeks longer than the North. So that's why I ended up cutting it a little bit shorter. So there's a little bit less of a discrepancy. Although if it's going to be a discrepancy, why not let it be a 3-week discrepancy? I don't know. If anybody really feels that I should expand the playoffs back to 6, let me know. I assume that would not have impacted your drafting in any way. If it did, sorry. But if you're just like, oh no, I only want to draft a team to be a top 6 team, not a top 4 team. I think that'd be something I'd be embarrassed to admit. So, okay, I'm gonna cut it off there. Whoa, one last thing I want to talk about. For the South, I don't know if it'll come into play, but just depending on if we expand or anything, we're definitely gonna have a 3rd place game. I'm gonna reinforce that. There's going to be a 3rd place game. So if you make playoffs, you finish in the top 4, then you're only 1 win away from having a chance to go to the North. Like 3 might not get called up, might not get promoted, but if we want to expand back to 9 in the North, then that's why we have to have a 3rd team ready to go. Let me know any questions, have anything else I need to address. But thank you all for listening. Looking forward to a great season, another one from the South, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.